Where are we? We are on page Yud Aleph.
12.
12A.
12A2.
12A here.
12A.
12A2.
Can we just go back to the last line on it?
12A2.
Can we go back to the Taanit and
We stopped there.
Nidro.
Farha. The Salamati. Cheers, everybody. Amen. Thank you. For you as well.
Okay.
Can you just do that last one fast?
Which last one? From where?
On the in the middle of your bet, the Tanya, but we got Taanit. 12A2 on the last paragraph.
Tanya.
Kol inish.
It's on the right side of the English.
Yeah, in the middle. Okay. Oh, so I'll give it to you outside because I don't want to go back that way because it's the different thing. The outside, the basis of that idea is that the Gemara in Megillat, the Megillat Taanit discusses certain holidays, minor holidays that were there, that they instituted where you were not allowed to have like Hesped, you were not allowed to have Avelut, you're not allowed to have a fast on that day. So the Gemara discusses what happens if there's a person who has a standing fast before that day. Okay? So the Gemara is then trying to figure out from the words of Megillat Taanit, does that prove like Rabbi Shemuel that you have to accept it in the Tefillah or in Milcha?
Okay.
And it's based on the fact that the way Megillat Taanit lays it down, that if you did this, then Yasser, then he's prohibited from eating. In other words, he's allowed to do it. Otherwise, he's not allowed to contravene their holiday. So the basic mechanics were, if the Kabbalat Neder was before the Takana, then the Kabbalat Neder stands, because it precedes the Kabbalah, it precedes the Gezerah. However, the other way around, if the Kabbalah of the Taanit is after the institution of the Yamim Tovim, then it's already Yamim Tovim that you're not allowed to fast on, so you're not allowed to institute it. Then the Gemara added an extra chidush, even if the Kabbalat Taanit was, even if the actual fast was, the actual acceptance of the day was before the fast. So in other words, I said Mondays, Thursdays, then they said, what's it called? That this specific Thursday is Asur, so I haven't gotten to that Thursday yet. It's not like the next year. It's that year. But still, my Kabbalah precedes it. So even if the fast itself is before, the Gezerah, their Gezerah was before the actual fast day, but after my actual Kabbalah Ta'anit, still the halacha would be that it trumps my Kabbalah, contravenes the ability to make that day Asur to fast on.
Firm. So the holiday would supersede.
No, the fast would supersede the holiday because my Kabbalah Ta'anit is before the Gezerah. Yeah. Okay.
Because before the Gezerah, but if the Gezerah was before the acceptance of the Ta'anit.
Yeah, if the Gezerah was before the Kabbalah, then the Gezerah stands. Okay? All right. So let's carry on. So now, we've been talking about the eating in the evenings, right? That was one of the subjects that we got to. So we are now up to Etnidot. Tan Rabbanan. Ad matai ochel v'shoteh. Until when is a person able to eat or drink? We are on Dav Yud Bet, Amud Aleph, 6 lines from the bottom, and you are on 12A3. Okay? Tan Rabbanan. Ad matai ochel v'shoteh. Until when does he eat and drink? Until sunrise. Divrei Rabbi. This is the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Eliezer bar Shimon Omer ad kirot hagever. Until the rooster crows, until we have the sounds of which is daybreak. So you have alot hashachar and you have netzach hama. When does the bird start crowing? It starts crowing at a later hour than amud hashachar. So he held that a person's allowed to eat until the rooster crows. Okay. Now there's different times in the Gemara Barachot. There's different times when that is, but we're not going to get into that. Amar Abaye. Abaye says, "Lo shanu ela shelo gamasi udato, aval gamasi udato en ochel." This is only and we talk about this idea that you're allowed to eat until that time, right? The person's only allowed to eat until that morning when he was lo gamar seudato, when he didn't fulfill. But if once the person eats this final element of the seudah, so we say, like, when we say that you have to make a condition before you do Birkat HaMazon, this is the makor for that Gemara, okay?
What do you mean if he didn't complete his meal?
So in other words, I'm eating now, right? I'm eating now, and now I have the time of being able to eat my meal up until that point. Let's say it's an hour before that time, and I finish my meal, Birkat HaMazon, chalas. Now I have Birkat HaMazon in a general sense. When a person finishes their meal in the lead up to a fast, that's the last fast they're going to eat. So in their mind, they're like, okay, this is it. Unless you say before you do Birkat HaMazon, like, I'm not planning on starting my fast now. I'm going to start my fast in the actual time. But the Gemara is now in the process of the analysis of this position of Abaye. Rava asks on Abaye. He says the Gemara, the Braita says differently. Remember, Braita and Mishnah is unassailable by an Amora, because Braita and Mishnah are from the Tanaim. The Gemara is by the Amoraim. So Abaye, Rava are Amoraim. Okay? So Rava says, one second. The Braita says, Gamar ve'amad. If someone finished his meal and he gets up to go to bed or to go to work or whatever the case is, Hareh ze ochel. Even though he finished, he's still allowed to continue and eat. So you see over here that even Gamar still Hareh ze ochel. Hatam, the Gemara says over there, Kishilo silek. That's talking about when he didn't get rid of the table. Now this idea is not something that we have today. Like at the end of the meal, you don't take away the table. You walk away from the table. So in our parlance, finishing the seudah and getting up and walking away is the same as clearing the table. But in their times, it wasn't like that. There was a table that they would bring to you to eat on. Okay? So the final element of the meal being over is when they folded your table up and they take it away. We have this halacha also with regards to the halachot of basar v'chalav, eating meat and milk, where we also talk about this idea of silek hashulchan, about taking away the table, so that that creates like a hard line that the seudah is finished. Okay, let's continue. So the Gemara says, so Abaye he deals with this problem by saying that case is lo silek. What did I mean? I mean silek. In other words, if you finish the meal and the table was taken away, there it's obvious you're not going to be eating anymore. And if that's the case, you're now starting a new meal, which you did not have intention to do, and we assume that would have been in your mind not to continue eating. The Gemara now continues. Says the Gemara, Ika Amri. Now another version of the events. There are some that say, Amar Rava. Rava said. So the person saying this, the initial proposition was not Abaye, it was Rava. Amar Rava lo shanu ela kishlo yashan. What's it called? This idea that you eat until the morning is when you do not go to sleep. But if you went to bed, you went to bed, and you're gonna get, you go to bed thinking you're gonna wake up in the morning. So going to sleep itself means that you're already starting the fast, and you're not going to rely on the final moments of before sunrise or before the rooster crows. The Gemara says, then he's not allowed to eat again. Ask the Gemara, etbe. Abaya asks on Rava, Yashan ve'amad. He brings the Braita. If a person slept and he stood up, so you see that even after the guy slept and he stands up, he rises later, he gets up for the morning, he's still allowed to eat. The Gemara answers, Hatam b'mitnamnim. Over there where it says that he's allowed to eat again, that's when he took a nap. He dozed off, Yani. It wasn't going to bed for the night. So in that case, Rava held that you'd be allowed to eat until the morning. It's fascinating. In both instances, the original proposition creates an artificial thing which is not going to allow the time condition to trigger. And in both cases, the answer to that is that this idea that you found me a case where sleeping or eating does not contravene the time allowance, That's a smaller version of what I was talking about. So I was talking about when the guy's finished. Say that Rava's like sleeping. He's like, what about the thing? He's like, I was talking about when he was sleeping.
Right.
Not that kind of sleeping. Not mitnamnem. Not when he dozes off where it's not considered sleeping. Now, the only difference I would say between the first Ika Amri and the second Ika Amri is in the first answer, Abaye's answer is not in size. It's in how over it was. It's got nothing to do with the eating part. Right? It's about the silek part, about the shulchan, like how over was it? Whereas when it comes to sleeping, Rava's answer has been mitnamnem. Like he doesn't say, oh, well, I was talking about when you cleared the bed away, right? I was talking about when you made your bed. Like it's not about the ending being a more pronounced ending. It's about the quality of the thing itself. You dozed off. This is not sleep.
Isn't it both about
Like Abaye could have answered the same question. If Abaye was giving in the first Ika Amri, Rava's answer here, you know what the equivalent would be? Rava's answer, Abaye would have said, oh, that's when you had a snack. I was talking about a meal. You see how the Ika Amris are not equal. Even though they seem to be parallels, they're not actually. And each one could have used the other's approach in fending off the Braita, but they don't. So that's important observation to make. Hechidami, yes, the Gemara. Okay, so you're telling me mitnamnem is not sleeping. The guy didn't really go to sleep, took a nap. Hechidami mitnamnem. What does it mean mitnamnem? Amar, Rav Ashi says, turn the page, Yud Bet, Amud Aleph. Naim velo naim. Tir velo tir. What does that mean? He's asleep, but he's not totally asleep. That's good. That's a great one. Tir velo tir. He's awake, but he's not completely awake. So the guy is a little bit in like he's la la land. Like if you told him the house was on fire, he'd jump out of his seat and run. Okay? Dekarule, like Gemara says, they call to him and he responds. They're like, honey, you sleeping? I'm not sleeping. That right there is mitnamnem. I told you you're gonna fall. Don't sit on the couch Friday night. I told you you're gonna fall. I'm not sleeping. That is right there. Mitnamnem. Get a t-shirt. Oh my gosh, that's a great idea. Stephen Franco, we need a mitnamnem t-shirt. I'm not sleeping, I'm just mitnamnem. And it should say Taanit, Yud Bet, Amud Aleph. Dachil Kon. Every time I have a good idea for a t-shirt, I shout out Stephen Franco in the video, and then I send it to him. Okay. He hasn't made me one of those t-shirts yet, but the other one is the toast. I survived the toaster fire of 2021. That's a sick one. I would wear that, by the way. Okay, fine. But then it brings the second part. It's not just they say, honey, not that. It's not it. What else do you need? And later on, when they tell him, well, remember I told you the thing? He's like, yeah, 2 dozen eggs. Right. So you got to be able to have some element of recall of that. It's not because, what's the why? Because if we just call you and you answer, maybe you were sleeping, but you woke up. So in order to fulfill the naim velo naim, tir velo tir, it needs to be like a state of quasi sleep, but also quasi awake.
You have to be like with it a little bit.
You have to be with it a little bit, okay? So if you act, coming from this Gemara, according to this interpretation of mitnamnem, right? What that would mean is that if you actually took a short nap, like a cat nap, you're out cold. I power nap, I'm out. 15 minutes, I'm out. It's like I'm sleeping, yeah? So
that would be considered sleeping.
Now, according to this definition.
Sleeping.
Yeah, now this is interesting because when it comes to other elements, when we talk about napping, one of the conditions in Masechet Berachot is that's the outcome of it. But what's the condition in defining it? Anyone remember? We talk about how long, right? How many blinks, right?
Sleep.
So how long is the sleep? We guesstimate that before you have to do anything like the time.
60 breaths.
Right, the 60 breaths, right? This kind of we measure whether it's sleep or not by length, not by depth, which is
But also,
interesting.
isn't it,
Over here, we're not doing that.
But the different, it's a different requirement. You're testing it for a different outcome.
I completely agree with you, but that's not what happened in the Gemara. The Gemara doesn't say what's the halacha of mitnamnem with regards to fasting in the morning. Rava just says mitnamnem. Ask the Gemara, what does mitnamnem mean? It's almost giving like a definition of the word.
Right.
Okay, let's carry on. Okay,
I'm sorry, I have a question. So if you're fully asleep, then what does that signify?
if you're fully asleep, ahlan wa sahlan. Okay, if you're fully,
Shanid.
get that man a glass also. If you
Right in the drawer.
top shelf, right there, keep on in the bottom drawer. Yeah. So the Gemara seems to not take into that into account, which means that for the sake of this discussion, the Gemara is coming out that according to Rava, that if you took a power nap, 15 minutes, it wasn't conditional. You didn't say I'm going to eat before I got up. Before I looked at shahar, you're out. You can't eat until the end of the fast. Okay. Velo yada ahadure. Says the Gemara. So we're giving like very exact definitions here. Dekarule ve'aneh, you call him and he answers. Velo yada ahadure svara. Sorry, I skipped that word. Lo yada ahadure svara. V'chimat kar. So remember, all of the things seem to be about how awake you are, but we also need to measure how asleep you are. So one of the things that he says over here is Lo yada ahadure svara. The guy doesn't know how to answer like an original thought logic. So if you ask him, look, I'm trying to do the taxes, do you think I should file here or do that? The guy can't hear an answer. So anything original he can't do. But to parrot back, mitkar. I've realized this is something which happens all the time. Husbands are capable of regurgitating information that they actually do not know and did not hear. What did I say? You said that you could pull it out. I don't know where. I think that is from the kindness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He created a separate pouch alongside the brain. Not in your brain. It's just a pouch. It has words in it, like letters. You just pull them out, Scrabble letters. You put them together. You told me to pick up. I'm listening. The chilak. So again,
Turn off the oven 15 minutes, 350 degrees.
and you turn off the oven in 350 minutes, and you set it at 15 degrees. Okay. Amar. And your wife asks you, by the way, this is a perfect example of what you just said. Your wife asks you, what are you, a dib? I don't understand. Who puts an oven on 15 degrees? The answer is, Lo yada ahadure svara. I'm not thinking, I'm just regurgitating. So I tried as much as I could, I pulled it back out, but I'm not thinking for myself. Thinking for yourself is an example of being completely awake and not tayar velo tayar.
Post-Saturday drinking nap. This is like the...
There's actually, you should know, there's actually an alarm clock that, everyone you hit the snooze and it's irrelevant. There's an alarm clock, and in order to shut it off, it makes you solve math problems. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I would never be able to solve
Late
it.
night emails.
So, yeah.
Google did it with late night emails to prevent people from sending an email that they weren't in the right head to send.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? What do you mean in their own company?
In their own, like, right.
Yimach Shemam, they didn't roll that out for us. Okay, let's go on. Says the Gemara. Amar Rav Kahana Amar Rav. Rav Kahana says in the name of Rav. Yachid shekibel alav ta'anit. A individual. We spoke about this concept of the individual or the sibur. Accepting ta'aniyot. Yachid shekibel alav ta'anit. He accepted himself ta'anit. Asur b'nilat sandal. He's not allowed to wear leather shoes. Haishin an shema. We're worried maybe ta'anit sibur kibel alav. Maybe he accepted on himself the type of fast, which is a ta'anit sibur, and therefore he's precluded also from a higher level than a regular ta'anit. Hechi, says the Gemara. Hechi le'avid. What should he do? Amar Rabba bar Rav Shila. Rabba bar Rav Shila said, le'mahachi. Let him say like this. A guy who can't do that, yani. Le'mahar ehere lefanecha b'ta'anit yachid. Tomorrow, I'm accepting on myself, Borei Olam, I'm accepting on myself the ta'anit of an individual. And the ta'anit yachid of the individual doesn't encompass and doesn't incorporate this higher level of restriction, and therefore he'll only have to not eat but not have to worry about Ne'ilat HaSandal.
Hold on.
I'm not worried. I'm not
Taanit
wondering. I'm not sure why he brings
I don't
only
understand this.
Ne'ilat HaSandal. So one more time, when a guy says, "I'm taking on myself a fast," says Rabba Bar of Shila, he's not allowed to wear sandal. He's not allowed to wear leather shoes. I don't know why it chose that one, right? Of the other ones.
No, but I don't understand the next thing. Because we are concerned that perhaps he accept. What does that mean?
Because in other words,
Taanit
he didn't,
Sibur is
since he
required.
accepted on himself a ta'anit,
Yeah.
he didn't say what kind of a ta'anit he accepted on himself. Is it of the sort of a yachid, or is it of the sort of a tzibur? So what's binding him now to this ta'anit is his own neder.
Okay.
So in his neder, what did he say? He said, I'm taking on myself a ta'anit. So what does that include?
So we have to give him the most stringent.
So we give him the stringent type. Why? Because it's a neder, and I'm guessing also because it's deoraita. Okay, so it's safek deoraita lechumra, right? Because he said
if you take on because the
it's a neder. Forget the ta'anit part.
Right. The
That's what I
neder
said
is
earlier. What's motivating the ta'anit here is the fact that you said you would do it. So that's a literal neder. We find this idea also. A guy says, "I'm going to be I swear I'm going to be a nazir." Right, thinking to himself, "This is dahak."
The words got me confused, but I get it.
Okay, let's say a guy says dahak. I'm going to be a nazir.
That.
I swear I'm going to be a nazir. Let's say the guy says that. Okay, so now he's laughing because how long is he going to not touch a dead body, not become tameh, and not drink wine? 1 minute. And then, like 2 minutes later, he's like, "Okay, not a nazir anymore." Ha, good one. Says the Gemara, "Stam nezirut shloshim yom."
30 days.
He's got like 30 days.
30 days. So there are times when a person makes a neder that is unspecified, and we specify that when a person makes that kind of a neder, this is what he meant. So that's the example
Got it.
of
You put a
Taanit
minimum on it.
Yachid. Exactly. Guy says, I'm going to be compliant. What's compliant mean? So the government, the law, the legal definition will have a minimal expectation of what that means. And even if the guy didn't say it, we assume that that's what that means. So Rav Kahana Amar Rav explains that that's what the person has an obligation to do. What should he do?
Taanit Sibur, no wearing leather shoes.
He's not referring to a Taanit Tzibur like that. He's referring to a Taanit of the Tzibur for the rain. A heavy one.
So Taanit Sibur for rain would not be a typical Taanit Sibur.
That's what it seems like from the Gemara. And that's also what it seems like from the Gemara where we talked about Bavel. Where in Bavel they only fasted, they wouldn't have the others, remember?
Right.
So you see also that seemingly is the same concept. Okay. Says the Gemara. Okay. Now let's continue. Now we're going to move on. Amrulei Rabbanan Rav Sheshet. The rabbi said to Rav Sheshet, okay, Ha-kachazinan Rabbanan de Mesainahu. We've seen other times when the rabbis are they're wearing their shoes. Ve'atu lebeit Taanita, and they come to a public fast house, right, to the Bet Knesset on the day of Taanit when they're going to pray. And what are they wearing? They're wearing shoes. Gemara says, Ikpid. Rav Sheshet, he took a kpeda, he was upset. Ve'amar lahu, he said, Dilma mechel nami achul. Maybe those rabbis that are doing that, they're also eating and they're separating themselves from the community. So if it's that kind of sketch rabbi, so okay, what do you want? You can't prove anything from that guy. Okay? But that's not the right thing to do. That's what he's saying to them. Now, it's interesting because there's two ways of learning this Gemara. It just tells you that Rabbi Sheshet became angry. It doesn't say who he became angry at. One way of interpreting what the Gemara means is he got angry and he said, what kind of sketch rabbis? The other way is to understand where he looks at these guys and he says, he's angry at them. And he says, oh what? You think they're also eating on the Taanit Tzibur? Yeah, they're probably doing that too. In other words, there's a reason why they're wearing leather shoes. Why would you doubt the Rabbanim? You can learn the Gemara either way. See? Okay.
Tattletales or the other way.
Yes. Okay. Let's move on. The Gemara continues. Abaye v'Rava me'ayli. Abaye and Rava would what's it called? They would go up ki misaimi apanta. They would wear the shoe, but it only had the leather part was only at the top. Miremar Marzutra Mechalfe Dimina Lismola. What would they do? They would take the right shoe, put it on the left foot, left shoe, put it on the right foot. Udismala liyamina, on these days that were fast days. One could only imagine that the idea is that they were exhibiting some level of discomfort. The shoe on the right foot and the left foot is not comfortable. It's the wrong way, so that's what they would do. Rabbanan, the Be'er of Ashi, the rabbis of the yeshiva of Rav Ashi, Nafka, they would go out, ki or hayu, as normal. Savre, ki adam Shmuel, they held like Shmuel holds, and Taanit Tzibur beBavel, coming back, Jeff, to what we said earlier, that there's no Taanit Tzibur in Bavel. So therefore, in other words, we do not hold of the stricter versions of the Ta'anuyot in Bavel. Ela Chaba'av bilvad, except for Chaba'av and obviously Yom Kippur. So the second opinion, that's what it's saying. Now again, remember, Rav Sheshet, where does Rav Sheshet live? Also in Bavel. So that would also be a possible reason why Ikpid, he's yelling at the guys. You think they're also eating? They're not eating. They're not wearing shoes. They have a reason, but you don't know it. Maybe they're holding like the opinions that hold, right? That Bavel, there's no public fast days of that caliber.
So he's just upset that they're interpreting the law that way.
He's, again, two pshatim. One pshat is he's upset at the rabbis. The second pshat is, no, he was upset at the people thinking, oh, what, you saw the rabbis, you think that they're not doing the halakha? Maybe what, you think also they're probably not fasting either, Yani. Like that, sketch. But the point was that actually there was a reason why they would be able to wear the leather shoes, even though it was a Ta'anit Tzibur. Okay, let's carry on. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rav, Love Adam Ta'anito, this is amazing, Uporea. A person's allowed to borrow a fast and pay back.
Wow.
What does that mean? He's allowed to borrow a fast. Doesn't mean I could borrow your fast. It means I could borrow a fast from myself. So if there's a time, where I can't fast on this day, but I made a neder, I was going to fast Monday and Thursday. So if I can't fast on the Thursday, I defer it to another time. So I'm borrowing a fast effectively from myself. Rabbi Yudam, ki amrite kamed Shmuel, when Rabbi Yehuda said, now when I said over this idea in front of Shmuel, Amar li, he said to me, V'chi neder kibel aleh, de lo sagi, de lo mishalem, de sa'ar nafsheh kibel aleh. 1 second, what are you talking about? In this case, you're telling me that he's allowed to borrow a fast and push it off to another time. Did he accept? Is this a case where V'chi neder kibel aleh? Does he have a neder about fasting? De lo sagi, de lo mishalem. It's not, you can't push it off. It has to be fulfilled. He accepted on himself something to cause himself pain. If he could do it today, fine. He can't. So what Shemuel was saying to him is that effectively, it depends on how the person made the fast. If his neder was to fast, so to push the fast off doesn't help. You said you're going to fast on this day. If the neder was, I want to do teshuvah, so I'm going to fast Monday and Thursday. It's not about the Monday, Thursday. It's about the fact that I'm putting myself through Yisurin, through a difficult time. So the idea of the Monday, Thursday was to fast 2 days a week. So it doesn't really matter in my Kabbalat neder whether I did it this way or that way. Okay? Let's carry on. Where are we?
So this technically is giving us the excuse to push off the fast?
Yes, in a case, but Shmuel is effectively defining.
How?
Yes,
Yeah.
the logic of
He
Rav.
didn't specify the day.
Sorry?
He didn't specify the day.
Correct. Because he wouldn't make a neder. I'm fasting on this day. You're talking about a case where a guy is saying, look, I ate non-kosher, I'm going to fast 20 days, I'm going to fast Monday, Thursday. It's about the 20 days that he's paying the tsar. So it doesn't matter if it was a Monday or a Wednesday. So he can move it because the ultimate concept is being fulfilled.
Rabbi,
Unless he specifies that specific day.
in number
Yeah.
12 in the bottom it says,
Yeah?
In this version, Shmuel indicates that one need not substitute another day for the specified day.
Yes, that's an alternate way of understanding Shmuel.
So that's
One
completely
way
the
of
opposite.
one way of understanding Shmuel is that Shmuel was saying he doesn't even have to make it up. Why doesn't he have to make it up? Because he said, "Look, I'm going to make Tuesday difficult. If he can make it difficult, then he could." Other people don't want to learn like the Rosh. Why? Because you still said L'Tzarei Nafsheh.
There's no.
You still said you're going to be Mitzayeh yourself. So now that you couldn't be Mitzayeh yourself on this day, so now you got to make it up. So there's two ways of understanding.
Binding you really, because even if you specify the day, you could say, "Oh, it's too complicated. I can't do it."
Right. So one way of understanding Shmuel is an explanation of Rav. One way of understanding Shmuel is a disagreement on Rav. If you understand it that way, then what Shmuel is saying is that you don't have to make it up because he didn't accept on himself a neder, he accepted on himself L'Tzurei Nafsheh. But others don't want to learn like that, because if you learn like that, then you left with a question. The guy accepted on himself L'Tzurei Nafsheh. I'm going to fast Monday, Thursday. Every Monday is like I'm hungry. But you said you're going to, so they don't like that.
But what is the fasting? Let's say he fasts Monday, Thursday. What does it get him in return other than just completing his promise?
It's Teshuvah.
So it works. So if you're committing to do something, then it should be a commitment.
Correct. So Shmuel says, if I might
If you're getting something, if you're
if
getting
my,
something for
I'm gonna
it,
fast. I'm gonna fast anyway. It's just a matter of fasting on another day. So my body net result had this amount of tsar. So I got what I signed up for. Okay. So there's two ways of understanding what Shmuel was doing in his comments to Rav. Now I want to show this to you in Rashi. Rashi says, okay. L'tzuri ba'alma, im matzi mitzar nafsheh, if he can give himself that affliction, fine. V'ilo lo yehe ela liyom acharina. It will be another day. So you see that Rashi is learning Shmuel not like the Rosh, that it's that whatever you couldn't, you can't, fine. He's not learning Rosh like that. He's learning the Shmuel like I explained. That is an explanation of Rav. Okay, let's move on.
Can you blow a public fast?
What do you mean? Oh, no, you can't.
You can't, right?
No.
Just private.
Yeah, the idea is just the concept of borrowing is just that if, and this is how the Shmuel's is quantifying it. He's quantifying it that's the case. I wonder, by the way, see if the logic of Shmuel is that, look, I decided to afflict myself. What's the difference today, tomorrow? If I choose to delay it to a day where the shortest day of the calendar year, so there's not the same litzaure.
You're still afflicting yourself.
You are, but not for the same amount of affliction. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I wonder what Shmuel would say if you delayed it to.
But then you should always fast in the summertime when the days are long.
Right.
So, what do you mean? Meaning, if it's the quantity that's important as opposed to the quality or the taking of the decision,
Yeah.
then you'd only fast, when the day changes.
No,
No,
but
but
it's
they,
not
remember,
that.
they were fasting. They were fasting when it didn't rain.
I got it. So what's the difference when
So
they
it
did
just
it?
mattered when it wasn't raining.
Yeah,
so
so
I'm
that's-
fasting now.
What's the difference when they did it?
Quality.
Also, Bavel didn't have
What do you
daylight
mean?
savings, so.
So the summertime is longer.
Summertime is longer anyway, right? But the point I'm making is that their fasts they were opportunistic, so they didn't get the choice to say when they wanted it to be.
That's
Right.
what I'm saying. Like when you realize you did something wrong,
Yeah.
you're committing something in the moment because you feel bad. If you're allowed
Right.
to change it,
Hold on, no, you're not allowed to change it. I said because of this I'm going to fast, but is there a difference in the net result if I fast on Tuesday or Wednesday?
yeah,
Maybe not.
I think
Why would
What
you
if
do
somebody
it?
says I'm gonna fast?
Why?
Because you were feeling bad in that moment.
Right. So
you
I
wanted
said
to
I'm going to
give up.
fast on Monday.
But you didn't know what Monday was going to bring. Now you know Monday you have a meeting, so it's going to be hard for me. So I'll do it Tuesday when I'm home.
So the Gemara is saying that the neder, sometimes when you don't say something in the neder, will inject it into. You didn't say how long your nizirut's going to be. 30 days. That's what it is. Okay. But sometimes also we'll categorize the neder. So in your neder, you said I'm gonna fast Monday, but you didn't mean Monday. You picked the first day that you're gonna do. You know,
This is a private fast just for the hell of it?
this
Like,
is
it's not for rain.
this is for either a rain, yachid rain fast, or a yachid fast for Taanit Tzibur or for Teshuvah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you say Monday, I'm gonna fast Monday and Tuesday. It doesn't matter that you said the specific days, you can make it up.
That's what Shemuel is saying. If it wasn't the neder, right? You get that caveat that he threw in. That's Shemuel's whole caveat. Like if you intended it as a neder, like this is what you say. Let's say as an example, the guy's grandfather died on Monday, and he's like, "I'm fasting Monday." You can't push that off because there's a reason why you were saying Monday. That's a neder. If it's l'tzeure nafsheh, the guy's like, "I need kapara. Gotta fast 2 days. Okay, Wednesday and Sunday." But they were random. So Shemuel is saying, you don't mean that. Like you know, when you sign on a house, the closing date is on or before, on or around, on or about, right?
Not time of the essence.
Yeah, it's not. So, you know, Yani, I picked this day because I happen to pick this day, but within reasonable.
Without a time of the essence clause.
Exactly. So without time of the essence clause, we expect that October 16th is random. That's the point. Time of the essence says no. This time is of the essence. So when a person, I love when I get exact
It's in New York
mashal.
State.
Exact mashal for the law people. Okay, fine. Let's carry on. No, but law people are the best people for Gemara. No one studies Gemara, takes the Gemara naturally like lawyers. You know that?
Just change your website.
Also, lawyers,
We are the law people.
lawyers and engineers also are fantastic at Gemara without any training, without ever opening Gemara, because it's a start. It's the way the brain is trained to process information. Okay, let's carry on. Where are we?
Ikadamre.
Next page.
Rav Yoshua Berei Rav
12b-2.
Ika de Amri.
Want to be
Okay. Rav Yoshua, Bered Rav Idi, Rav Yoshua, the son of Rav Idi,
You're right.
Ikla lebe Rav Asi. He would go to the house of Rav Asi. Avduleh, they made for him, when he traveled to this house, Egla Tilta, a fattened lamb, a fattened calf. Okay? They got him Egla Tilta. Beautiful. He arrives, he's got this delicacy now waiting for him. Amrule lit'om marmidi. Why don't you have something? Amale b'ta'anita yatirna. I am sitting now, I'm in the middle of a fast. Amrule ve'lo mar. This is a great one, right? Push it off. You got a big fat lamb sitting over here. You got the lamb riblets, huh?
Not kosher.
What's not kosher?
Egla tilta.
Why not?
Remember you told the story last
The
time.
rabbi
Make
on the
the
fast.
excuse. Come on, Rabbi.
You're saying that's the reason why he said it. Okay, beautiful. Yeah? 1 second. Okay. Velo zifmar, vilipara. Let him borrow a day, you know, eat now, and tomorrow you'll fast. Lo savar mar, do you not hold lehad amar of Yehuda amarav love adam tanito porea? Right? Do you not hold that a person he borrows a fast, you know, tanito porea, and then he'll pay back later on? Amar lehu, he said to them, Taanit chalomu. My situation here is I have a Taanit chalom. I saw a terrible dream. It's made me very disconcerted. I'm very upset about it, and therefore a dream like that is not something that you could push. Okay. The Amar Rabba Bar Mahasya. Rabba Bar Mahasya said, Amar Rav Hama Bar Guria said in the name of Rabbi Hanan bar Guria, who said in the name of Rav, Yafeh ta'anit chalom lechalom. A ta'anit is good for a dream. Ke'esh lanaoret is as good as a fire is to the pishtan, the flax, before it's combed. It catches on fire immediately. So in other words, like a house on fire. That expression. Okay. So a ta'anit is good for a bad dream, like ish lanaoret. But Rav Hizda said ubo bayom, and specifically when is that fast so effective in alleviating the concern and as well not allowing the terrible thing that happened in the dream to come true. Ubo bayom dafka, specifically if he fasts on that day. The Amar Rabbi Yosef says v'afilu b'Shabbat, even if he has a dream Friday night and now he has the what's it called? He wants to fast the next day on Shabbat. Maitakante, what should he do? How do you do it if you're now going to fast on Shabbat, right? And you're not allowed to do that because you have to eat on Shabbat. Gemara says, Letev ta'anita leta'anita. He serves two fasts. One fast to make up for the Shabbat, one fast on Shabbat, so he does it bo bayom, and then he fasts an additional fast for kapara for the fact that he fasted on Shabbat.
Yeah.
That's
Why?
Fast for the chalom, even if it's on Shabbat. If it's on
Don't go to
Shabbat,
sleep Friday night.
Fast
I wanna have a
again.
bad dream.
fast again
Kapara.
Sunday, basically.
Fast again, whatever day.
Or whenever.
Another day. You owe a
Stay up
fast.
all night Friday night.
All right. So what's interesting is actually the question is, how's a person allowed to do that? His ta'anit is midrabanan. His obligation to respect the Shabbat midoraita. What's the obligation of Shabbat? We have an obligation on Shabbat. Zachor yom Shabbat lekadisho. What does it mean? Zochreu al hayayin. You have to make kiddush. Mitzvah midoraita. How's he fasting? Answer is he could be yotzei kiddush without drinking. That's one answer to the kiddush. How about the seudot Shabbat?
Can't be yotzei on Shabbat day without drinking or eating, no?
You can be yotzei the kiddush of zochreu al hayayin,
Right, but you can't.
but you're not yotzei kiddush makom seudah. That's what you mean.
Even halal.
Right? So
Yeah.
again, so how's he doing? He's not allowed to not fast. And the Gemara says clearly that that's why he's fasting another fast. So there's a fascinating piece in the Darchei Moshe. The Darchei Moshe was written on by the Rama on the Beit Yosef, by the Beit Yosef in the Torah. You'll see it. It talks about when a person fasting on Shabbat Yom Tov, when you have an obligation for Oneg Shabbat, to make Shabbat special and foods and meat and all this kind of thing. Meat Yom Tov also. Right? You have Oneg Yom Tov, you have right? You have all these things where you have to eat meat, drink wine, en simcha, ela basar vayayin. So you have an obligation on Yom Tov to drink wine and eat meat. Not because of the kiddush, because of the seudah. Answers Darchei Moshe, he says for a person who's so distraught by their dream that they have to get to a stage where they're going to fast in order to undo it, for that person, the fact that he thinks that his dream is going to resolve his issue is a greater form of oneg and a greater form of ta'anug than the actual food he's going to eat.
Because you believe.
Because he believes the fast.
Because he believes the fast is going to resolve. Exactly. So there's an oneg for him in the fasting. In fact, what would the food bring him? Distress. Tsar. Same halacha that the Rama writes with regards to a person who hates meat. You have a guy who hates meat, hates wine. Does he have an obligation to eat meat and wine on Yom Tov? Same concept. Darchei Moshe, the Rama writes the same idea. So all of that fits into the Gemara that we've set up until this point. One of my questions, by the way, just as a side point, on Rashi, on the Rosh, you see, Rashi explains that Shmuel is going in line with Rav, correct?
Yeah.
The Rosh explains Shmuel is going against Rav. He's saying, no, you don't even have to complete the fast. Yeah. Why didn't they tell the rabbi who came, Lozif, whatever, push it off? And they don't ask him, don't you hold the Shmuel? You don't have to fast, you don't have to make it up?
But then they say, don't you hold like Rabbi Yehuda?
I understand. But why did they ask him only, don't you hold like Rabbi Yehuda Amarav, that says you can make it up another day? How come they didn't say, don't you hold like Shmuel? And then he wouldn't have to make it up at all. But according to Rashi, it's not a question. They hold the same thing.
Got it.
See, so that's why when I taught it according to Rashi, because of this question I had in my head, on the opinion of the Rosh on the Gemara. Baruch Adonai, Amen, Amen.